And now we're going to jump into the main event. So let's talk about this. Who here filed appeals? Craig, you filed appeals on both your rentals?
Just the one.
Okay.
I did.
Okay. You filed an appeal? How's that going?
Not good.
Not good?
Denied twice.
Denied second level? You went to
No.
the hearing?
I just tried to go back to the first. I did not
Got
do
it.
the hearing.
Got it.
Is it too late to file an appeal?
Great question. It's not too late to file an appeal. The deadline has passed, but come January 1st, you can file what's called an abatement, which is a retroactive appeal, and you can go back up to 2 years and file an appeal on that property. So if you miss the deadline, you can do
So
that.
I'm not too late.
You're not too late. Nope, you can go back.
I'm too late, but not too late.
You go back in time, and if you do get a reduction, the county will pay you out the tax savings that you deserve plus interest. Okay. Craig, success?
Yeah, I don't remember what they slightly decreased it, but I'm like, oh, whatever. It's something. So
Okay. Did you take it or did you escalate?
I just took it because
Okay.
I'm like,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
Noelle, you got some clients that are asking you about property taxes and values?
Every year.
Okay.
All over the country. People are calling me like,
Wow.
I'm like, eh.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know how it works.
Sure.
I've never had to try it myself.
Okay.
But now I sold my son the house last year and his property taxes and insurance went up. So his payment is $600 more a month.
Wow. Yeah.
So now I am forced to have to learn.
Yep.
Because I want to help.
Here,
Yep.
Yes.
600 a month.
600 a month.
It's a lot of money.
That's huge.
It's a lot of money.
He's about your age and he's got 2 babies and
Yeah.
a wife that can't work right now and I'm like, oh my God. So I want to learn how to do this to
Okay.
help him.
Great. Well, you show up to the right place.
Yeah.
Is there, so we'll talk about that, Craig. I know you mentioned that the short-term rental thing going on next year. Anything else that you want to focus in on while you're here?
yeah, I mean, just the basic equations of understanding it and, making sure I can speak on that soundly.
Okay.
And, like I just kind of fumbled through the appeal process where, yeah, marginal success there, but
Yeah.
what could I have done better, so on and so forth.
Kind of.
And before I forget,
Yeah.
how many, and then is there how many times can you appeal in one house? Like every 5 years, every 3 years, every other year? Or every year?
You can appeal every year, one time. Once the decision is made,
Right.
you can't
But you can
go
do it
back
every
at
year
it.
if you need
Yeah.
to. Okay.
Yeah, but you can go back in time 2 years. So yeah, these are all great questions. Good, thank you. It's so much more fun when people talk, participate. I hate talking to them.
Full of mutes.
Oh, it's the worst. Because I want it to be about you all, right? Your time is valuable. Okay, so this class is 1 CE credit. We're going to kind of breeze through it here, but we're going to answer your questions along the way, right? The goal here is we're going to talk about property taxes. We're going to talk about Colorado values. We're going to talk about kind of the assessor and all that works, just to kind of give you a full picture. This class isn't about hammering away, hey, file an appeal on your property. But if there's an opportunity, right, we obviously want to share with you some of the best strategies to do that, okay? We already covered this in the last slide. That's me, that's my family. Good Thanksgiving. That was before the girls were born. Got to update that photo. Guys, what is this title guy up here doing talking about property taxes? Okay, so I've been in title insurance now for about 7 years. Before that, my wife and I took a year off, a hiatus, and we booked a one-way ticket to Europe and Asia and spent a year backpacking, and that was a lot of fun. Came back, found myself in title insurance. Before that, though, I spent 4 years living in this cubicle. Okay?
That looks awful.
It was the worst, man. It's like the most corporate job, swirly green carpet, like just boss.
They hit you with the square computers too.
Oh,
Those are
Oh yeah.
when you don't get rectangle computers
That
with
was-
squares.
That was my standing desk. Literally, I made my own standing desk. Like if I stood up and put my laptop right there, that was that. Anyway, so guys, I spent 4 years as a commercial real estate property tax consultant. I was responsible for about 7 or 8 different states in the Western United States on the commercial front, with basically reviewing large properties and finding appeal opportunities if I could, and going toe to toe with the local assessors. Okay, so I did everything from office to industrial to a ton of multifamily, right? Everything across the board. And then also the CEOs of these companies, I'd review their $15-20 million condo in Aspen. And so I do some residential stuff too. The commercial stuff, I'll be honest with you, is way more complicated than residential stuff. It's pretty straightforward. We're going to focus in on residential today. With that said, I've filed thousands of appeals in various states. And here's the honest truth is there's just kind of like this game, I hate to say it, kind of behind the scenes on how these properties are reviewed and how these appeals kind of go down, and it's not fair in my opinion to the everyday homeowner that just doesn't kind of know. So I'm going to share with you all some insight from what I've learned from filing appeals here in Colorado, which was our largest state. Is that fair? Okay. All right. So I did all that, did a ton of appeals. We talked about Chicago title. We'll send you that slide deck at the end. We're going to talk about Colorado property valuation here, but what we need to first hit on is how the heck are properties valued in the state of Colorado? Here in the state of Colorado, it's strictly based off of the market approach, the sales comparison approach, right? You all know this from just looking at comps and valuing properties. So where I'm going here with this, why this is important, is it's a huge opportunity for all of you knowing this, and then also having access to the local MLS. That is a huge leg up to the everyday homeowner. Because what I found from working with various counties throughout Colorado, every county website is, some are really good and some are really bad when it comes to accessing data and looking at comps and having access to the information. You both have a huge leg up by having access to the MLS. And I'll tell you what, back in May, when property values were released, right, back in May 1st, and values were going up on average 40%, and everyone's freaking out. There were a ton of real estate agents that I worked with that basically took all of this value and took access to the MLS and helped all of their clients with reviewing their property and doing these reviews and helping them file them appeals. So again, there's other ways on how you can give back and help. Okay, property values are released on May 1st. Properties are reassessed every 2 years. Okay, so if that helps at all, right, soften the blow, right? I get it, 40% increase, that's not fun. Technically, it's a 20% increase over 2 years, right? Deadline is pretty quick, okay? Depending on the county, for the longest time, it was June 1st. You had May 1st to June 1st to get your appeal in. Then counties started coming out with extended deadlines, and it varies from county to counties. Typically, a lot of them extended out about a week. Obviously, we're past June now, we're going almost into January, so it's not really relevant at this point. But just something good to know. What is the job of the assessor? Their job, of course, is to review properties, value properties, maintain property records. We're very fortunate here in Colorado. Colorado is an open information state where we have access to so much data. If we go online or pick up the phone and call the assessor, they're going to give us some great information. I've worked in other states where none of that is available. And quite frankly, when I filed appeals in certain states, they wouldn't even tell me what comps they were using or how they were valuing the property until I filed the appeal, and they had to give us that information. So for what it's worth, we're in a great state with access to a ton of data and a ton of information, okay? Of course, the assessor is also responsible for these appeals, which is what they are going under, which historically has just been the craziest year for all of the counties with the number of appeals that have been filed. They've just been outnumbered, to be completely honest with you all, okay? And we're gonna talk a little bit about that. And of course, providing information. So, we're going to look at sales comps, right? We're going to try to find appeal opportunities. What we're going to dive into, the most important part of all of this is looking at what the heck the date of value is, the range of time that we're allowed to look at from where we can pull that data of properties that sold to determine our appeal opportunity. We're going to look at comps. One thing I want to point out, because I get asked this question a lot, is you cannot take equalization as another valuing technique here in Colorado. So what that means is if you live in a new build community, right? And every property is a cookie cutter, same property. And Craig next door, for whatever reason, his property is valued $100,000 less than yours. It's the exact same property, same bedroom, same bath. Unfortunately, even though that logically makes zero sense, you can't use that as an argument in the state of Colorado to file an appeal. You can still bring that up as information to add to the appeal, but that can't be the entire reason for your case. Unfortunately, when we look at filing appeal opportunity, we're gonna have to put blinders on, which I think is hard for certain personality types. And we're gonna only be able to look at certain data and follow certain rules to determine whether or not an appeal can be created. Craig mentioned earlier that when he had filed an appeal, he had shared some information about the crime rate and sounds like maybe some loud people next door stuff.
Yep.
That is kind of a subjective thing, and I love that you do that. And the truth is, Craig, in my opinion, that information is just going to come down to whose desk at the assessor's office does your appeal package end up on? Is it its personality types? Is it that assessor that is just, straight follow all the rules black and white? Or is that assessor that's more maybe disc personality style that can kind of lean both ways? I'm like, all right, I get that, right? So it honestly just is a crapshoot. I'm glad you got a reduction.
Yeah, well, and because I was having a hard time because I was pulling similar properties, and I'm like, shoot, so they're onto something with the value because
Yep.
I didn't have a good case
Yep.
to dispute that, so I just leaned into what I did have. So
Good for you. Good for you. Of course, taxes, right? We're gonna talk about property taxes and all that. Here's what we need to know. Understanding Colorado property value assessments. So Colorado property values are reassessed every 2 years in the odd number year, right? So 2023, they'll be reassessed again in 2025, 2027, and it goes on and so forth, okay? As we mentioned, property values come out May 1st. Typically we have until early mid-June to get those appeals submitted. And even numbered years, typically the value's gonna carry forward, okay? So here's the deal, Craig, if you didn't do this, well, actually, it will carry forward for you. In a circumstance where we are in 2024 and that value already came out and has been published, and then we file an abatement, which is that retroactive appeal, and we get a reduction on the previous year, we need to make sure that the county reduces the value for both years. Because if you get a reduction for 1 year, then it should be reduced for the other year. And counties miss this, so it's your responsibility to make sure that this happens. So just a little tip there as we get into 2024. Does that make sense? Okay. Even numbered years, the only time we really see property values change is if there's massive construction development, like this property here, right? And what will happen is the assessor typically will come out to commercial properties, and what they're looking for, and this is the big kicker and a ton of consulting I would give to a lot of people who are developing properties, was the county considers the property, if it's a commercial property, once the foundation is on the property, it is now considered a commercial property. Now, why does that matter? Because the assessment rate in the state of Colorado is significantly higher than the residential rate. So that land might be residential land, and then the moment that foundation is put on, it's turned to commercial and it's assessed almost 4 times higher. So sometimes when I was consulting with clients, they say, hey, if you can wait, another month and put that foundation, it's going to save you a ton of money on your taxes. And on the commercial front, when they're paying 6 figures in property taxes every year, it makes a big difference.
So even on if I buy a lot, wherever I buy a lot, 1 acre lot, and I want to build a single family home on it, the minute the foundation goes in, they call it commercial. Even if it's residential?
if you're going to build commercial.
I
No, if you're residential, you're good. You're good. Sorry, I was jumping in my commercial side.
In fact, it's better if you're residential, right? Because you get a higher rent.
Yeah. The other thing I've seen too is agricultural land, people converting ag land, which has a ton of exemptions and stuff like that. And then it changes. And I'm like, why did it change? Right?
question of
Yeah, what's up?
eggland, if I could.
Yeah, go
so, are you going to go over what qualifies for agricultural land? and-
Not so much,
Okay.
specifically residential. I'll be honest with you, I don't know all the ins and outs of that with the ag land. That I know this is the answer you want to hear, but it's going to be probably just call the local assessor.
Okay.
And
The
talk
good
to
thing
them.
is you can look that up online.
Yeah.
So I'll have to look it up. I got 2 goats and 5 acres, so.
Oh, do you? Yeah. Did I get the ag land?
Yeah.
Put a freaking beehive on it.
I'm
Is that
allergic
the
to bees,
move?
so I don't know if I'll do that.
Oh.
but-
You can look
Put
at
it, Craig, put it 4 acres out.
Yeah,
you know?
4 acres
Put it in the corner.
Yeah. And then have someone else deal with it. All right, guys, this is probably the most important slide of this entire presentation. This is what you need to hammer into, okay? Is right here for the property values, right? The 2023 value that already came out and the 2024 value that should carry forward. They're assessed based on what we call a date of value. And what that basically means is if we can look at a snapshot, if we can look at enough data literally on just one date in time, and that determines what the value of our property should be, that date of value for 2023 and 24 is June 30th, 2022. Okay? Now, I don't know if y'all kind of remember where the real estate market was at in late June of 2022, but it was jamming. I mean, it was booming. I mean, that was right before rates started to go up and things started to change, and then kind of that, second half kind of shifted. So unfortunately, I mean, some people will make the argument, I mean, the market was like peaking out right in June of 2022. And guess what? That resulted in these massive increases in our property values, which is why we're seeing these massive increases. And that's what's the problem. And that's why people are pissed off. And that's why the assessor is saying this is what we're doing. So this is where we have to put blinders on. So in a perfect world, we can pull enough sales comps on June 30th, 2022, right? But is that realistic? Probably not. We go back in time. We go back in 6-month increments. Typically, we will go back historically 18 months, and we'll look at January 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. And we'll look at the properties that sold that are comparable within that time frame and use those to value the property. The struggle is if you're in a community or an area where there's a lot of properties that sold closer to that June 30th, 2022 deadline, those are going to hold more clout. So the more comps you can find closer to that June 30th date that are very comparable, those are going to have more weight, more value. If you can't find enough comps, some counties, I can't remember if El Paso does it, but some counties, what they'll do is if the market just keeps getting better and better, which it did in this time frame, they will do something called time trending, okay? So if Craig's looking at some properties, Noel's looking at some properties, and Noel found some great comps that sold in January of 2021, that's great. But the county might fire back at you and say, that's not a realistic sale because it was so far back and the market has improved so much. You need to time trend that. And what that means is you need to apply a percentage to increase that value every single month. I've seen those somewhere anywhere from like 1 to 5%. It's crazy. What's that?
Really want to say something out loud that I shouldn't say.
Okay.
Go back when Trump was in office. Sorry, not sorry.
It's a safe space, Noel. You're good.
I do have a quick question for
yeah.
you regarding this. So what if it was a major fixer-upper
Good question.
that had not been touched in 50 years? The outside still proves that.
Mm-hmm.
The inside does not.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've heard that argument before.
That's
I've heard success from it. I know someone in Parker who had wasn't a fixer-upper, but what it was it was a rental property that she rented out through the COVID years, had some bad tenants, just destroyed the place, destroyed it. And she took photos of the interior and she said, look at this. And the truth is the county doesn't know any of this. At the end of the day, this is what I hit on too, is there's only so many people working at, say, El Paso County, right? And there's a boatload of properties. You can't get through all of them. And what a lot of these counties rely on is these algorithms, these computer algorithms to value. So they're not going to always get it right. That's why we have the appeal process. That's why, right, valuation is an opinion of value. And that's a perfect example of saying, hey, most likely all the comps that were used to value that property are probably not good comps because the interior is nice and this one's appealing.
Can you show photos?
You can't. Again, it's one of those subjective things, but my opinion, you need to show photos, right? Because you're going to show the interior of the home, which is then going to argue, hey, look at the interior of the home. This is going to affect, obviously, the resale value of it. We need to be looking at different properties. Yeah.
All right, so my house I bought in December of 22.
Yeah.
After this date.
Okay.
Right? So it's after this.
Yep.
My taxes went up, they doubled. I did not appeal. But my house was a fixer-upper, like Noel is talking about. Mm-hmm. The whole thing had to be gutted, but they don't know that I gutted it. So they based my value in these days off of the comps that are nicer, a lot nicer. And again, they don't know that I fixed it up.
December of 2022. Ben purchased his property in December of 2022. Okay, so that puts us at what? January. Oh, it's after.
It's after.
Got it.
But so during this time when they would have valued my property, they were basing it off of the comps.
Yep.
And my house had to be gutted. So I have pictures of it.
So if I were you, if it was a POS, I would take photos of those rooms that show it, and then the first thing you can do, in my opinion, when you're
I can
filing an
win
appeal,
easy.
is you want to poke out all the comps they're using. Some counties provide the comps online, some of them will mail them to you, some of them you'll get it after you file the appeal, and that's gonna be a quick argument. It's like, well, these all have
I got some
prove
great
they got beautiful interiors, right? So that's where I would lead in.
Cool.
So now you poke holes in all their comps, and you go find some POS sales if you can, right, through the MLS or whatever, and argue that value down. That's how I would approach that. One other point I want to make that hasn't been made yet is if the property was sold within this date of value, right, before June 30th of 2022, within that range, that sale for the subject property is going to hold the most clout, the most amount of value, okay, in determining that value, okay? So I won't even honestly look at comps. If you're looking at property and it's sold within that time frame, that's going to hold the most weight, right? And you got to look at, all right, well, where's it valued at? What did I purchase it at, right? And is it above that? If it's above that, then I would say I'd still file an appeal and I would argue for the purchase price. They'll probably come back and say, we time trending it forward. Who knows? You might get a reduction. Honestly, it's a crapshoot. But if you're looking for opportunities, that's kind of the lens I put on to look at these properties. Any other questions?
What did you say? Argue for the
Purchase price.
Purchase.
Say Ben bought his property in February of 2021 for $1 million, and the county has it valued at 1.2.
right?
I would submit an appeal and just argue $1 million and see if I get it. Just take a shot at it.
Yeah. Because
Here's-
they
go
don't
ahead.
even take into the account all the shit that you had to do.
Yeah.
The blood, sweat, and tears, like literally.
Totally, but then also just the purchase price is valuable. And also, in my years of filing appeals and challenging the county, I've only seen the county raise the value on me like 3 times. And that's commercial properties. They're usually very level-headed when it comes to residential properties. So this is another point, though, to be made with any of your clients. If you have someone who's just pissed off, they're like, my value went up, and screw El Paso County or whatever, and I want to file an appeal, it's important to remind them that the county does have the ability to raise the value. So if they file just an appeal because they're pissed off and the county missed something, whatever that is, somehow through their records, and they catch it on the appeal process, the county can totally raise that value if they want to. So just keep that in mind.
Forgot my question.
Okay.
Well, I don't know how to word my question.
Okay.
Would you say that, so say you appeal and you get whatever discount you get, the next 2 years, would you say there's just an algorithm for them? Or do they specifically go back and kind of dig for those cases that were appealed that people fixed up? They're like, they got it down to the purchase price, that was a miracle, but now that house should be worth this. Do they
I think about that all the time.
literally dig into that? I mean, you don't think
I think about that all the time. I'm like, did they go back and see, this person's a pain in the ass and files an appeal every year, and we got it down, and now it's like way off, and they look at, I think they do. I don't know. I'm just
they
making
probably
this
don't
up.
really have time
Right? What's
for
the
it.
spread, right? Do they have time for it? I'll be honest with you guys. I am one of the few people that actually, I didn't file an appeal this year. My value didn't surprisingly go up that much. I filed an appeal the last time around, got a great reduction. It is honestly
Yeah.
underassessed. And I'm thinking like, I don't know, did they just miss it? Like the truth is they're human, they're busy, there's algorithms and stuff gets missed or stuff gets screwed up. And the question is like, what side are you on? Is it right?
They don't want to draw too much attention.
Exactly.
Be a little deeper
Yeah.
in there.
So I mean, me who literally, I know all the tricks in the book, I didn't file an appeal because I'm underassessed. But I think about that. Do they
My
have
house
those?
is under assessed.
So there you go. Congratulations. You're one of the few.
Oh yeah, I'll never fucking tell you what I've got.
Good. All right. We hammered this pretty hard in the data value, valuation. Property values went up like crazy. We're going to talk about real estate property taxes now. and we're gonna talk about that calculation that Craig wants to know about. We're gonna talk about assessment rates, just kind of some basic stuff here, right? I mean, the other side of the coin, right? There's two sides to it. Is why do we pay for property taxes, right? Property taxes are gonna go to local governments, schools, roads, local parks, local transportation, water infrastructure, mental health services, public safety services. So if it makes you feel any better, as you make that payment, right? It doesn't fund any state services, it does stay local. Tax properties are valued based on the land building improvements, right? We're gonna look at the sales comparison approach. Go back, fun pop quiz. We get to participate. Guys, in the United States of America, there are various states that pay a very high property tax rate, a very low property tax rate. Of course, out of the 50, my question for you is this. Which state has the lowest property tax rate?
Wyoming.
Good guess.
I know the highest.
What's the highest? Texas? Great guess.
I mean, I think we're on the lower end, but I don't think we're the lowest. Are we? Wait.
Are we-
When I was looking up the equation to figure out these numbers,
No.
I thought it said that we were down.
No, it can't be Wyoming. They don't have state income tax.
Wyoming's a good guess. Colorado's a good guess.
Florida.
Montana.
Minnesota.
Florida's high because they don't have state income tax. So their
Right.
property taxes are high.
That's true.
What about the highest? What do you think's the highest?
Florida.
Florida. What
Or
do you
New
say?
York.
New York.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right.
California, because that's why everybody's moving here. I don't know.
Okay, good guesses, guys. Let's take a look. Now, these are always changing. This is an outdated slide. It will update, obviously, now that we got Colorado. But roughly, from what I've seen, Colorado's typically in the top 10, top 5. I mean, it's here on 3 based on this stat, right? I usually see the top 5. We got Hawaii as the lowest, followed by Alabama, Colorado, Louisiana, District of Columbia. Finishing that out, highest, New Jersey. New Jersey,
Hawaii is the lowest.
Isn't that crazy?
I don't believe that.
So is their income tax just insane?
I don't know.
Or I guess their property values are insane. So
Sure. New Jersey, Illinois, New Hampshire. You hit on New York, Craig. We're somewhere in there. There's New York, right? And these are going to
That
change.
makes sense. The
Yeah,
highest makes sense, but okay, lowest Alabama, I believe that. How
yeah.
come New Mexico's not on there?
Isn't that interesting?
Surprising it was. I mean, I'm from Wisconsin. I never owned real estate there. I just,
Yeah.
lived there.
Huh?
I'm surprised that that's like one of the higher ones. Do they know how cold
Yeah.
it gets there?
just state income tax
Well,
though.
I kind of. I mean,
I don't remember. I mean, I was an adult and I had jobs. It's just I don't I don't recall.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Wyoming is up in that top 10 too. You can't see it.
That's really
Yeah.
interesting.
You got a good guess on Texas. Texas is nuts. What my property tax company, we had our own divisions within Texas that just handled parts of Texas. And a lot of parts of Texas, it was like a whole game. Like they knew that everyone was gonna file appeals. So they would, from a negotiation standpoint, they would aggressively increase the value, knowing that all the property values were gonna get appealed, and then they were gonna come back to the real value that they were gonna come at. It's like, it's nuts. It's nuts. So that's Texas for
I
you.
mean, I can kind of understand that because I've lived in some of those states.
Yeah. Interesting.
Alabama.
Alabama, yeah, I didn't know about that one. That's fascinating. So how do we break down real estate property taxes and how the heck do we calculate them? So here's we're gonna jump into some math for y'all. So first of all, it's like, what's the property classified as? Is it single? Is it residential? Is it multifamily? Is it commercial? Right. What's the value of the property? What's the assessment rate, which is gonna be based off of the property classification? What's the assessed value? That gets confusing. Well, if you ever go online, you look at the assessor's value, you look at your property, look it up, it's going to say, hey, the actual value is $1 million, right? But the assessed value is whatever, 400,000. What that means is basically to get to the assessed value, they're going to take the actual value, they're going to multiply it by the mill levy divided by 1,000. That's how they get to the assessed value. We throw around the terminology assessed value, but when you're talking to the county, technically that's incorrect. I'm going to show you what that looks like. This is a property tax calculation. Okay, so you take your actual value, right? Ben's got $1 million property, just making this up, right? Times the assessment ratio. Okay, say that's whatever, 8%, somewhere in there. We'll show you. Multiply that by the mill levy, which we're going to talk about. The mill levy is going to vary. It can vary within the county. It depends on where the heck you are. You take that mill levy, mill, Latin for 1,000, you divide by 1,000. That's going to give you your property taxes for the year. Let me show you an example. in a second. Assessment rates are set statewide and vary. Residential, commercial, multifamily. Mill levies are by the local governments. I want to show you a few things later on why those are so important and why you should know them when you're helping people buy real estate, because the mill levies can fluctuate and dramatically affect the property taxes. I'm not going to dig too deep into this, but there are a couple of major changes in the last 5 years to how our properties are valued and how our taxes are calculated. One of them is the Gallagher Amendment, which was put in place for several decades. It was repealed in November of 2020. This broke down the ratio of basically where the taxes come from for the state. At the time, it was 45%. The taxes came from non-residential, and the remainder came from the other side. And that's all changed, which is, again, playing a part in a lot of things going on today. There's some other, changes that I'm not going to dive too deep into. If you all want, you can dig into this, look at the slide deck. Most people, we're going to breeze by this. What I want to show you is what's most important is how the heck do we calculate our property taxes. And what you need to know is for year 2023, for residential properties, the assessment rate, and this is new to me because for the longest time it was just the same number. Now it's changing every year. The assessment rate is going to be, you take your value, take your $1 million value, right? You're going to multiply it. First you're going to subtract, this is new, they've never done this before. You're going to subtract $15,000 from your million. So now you're at 900.
985.
Yeah, perfect. Math. Then we're going to take that number and multiply it by 6.765%.
I'm going to do this right now.
Yeah, do it. Okay. That is going to give you what they call your assessed value. Okay.
Yeah, a minute ago, when you said 8%, were you just like guesstimating?
No, yeah, 7.96%. For the longest time, it was so simple.
Yeah.
Commercial was assessed at 29%. Residential, which at the time was single family and multifamily, was 7.96%. Since then, it's just gotten way more confusing.
Do you know, is it like 7 doors classification for multifamily?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it might be. Well, I guess I don't know for taxes.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a county question.
Okay.
Yeah. For the longest time, it was just residential, multifamily.
Yes.
Man, and it is crazy, guys. Like, how many people are just building multifamily like crazy and
No
just
kidding.
saving so much money on their property taxes. And multifamily is a fascinating one here in Colorado. I was like the go-to guy for multifamily at my company. And I'm a nerd when it comes to data. I'm very good at manipulating data and making it kind of in my favor. Multifamily in the state of Colorado is valued strictly based off of the sales comparison approach, which to anyone
Because we
who,
don't have
which to anyone
very
in,
much.
what's that?
We don't have hardly any multifamily. We don't have enough.
We'll see, but here's the deal. To anyone who owns multifamily that doesn't know this, they think it's nuts because they look at all these multifamily investments from an income approach and how much they're worth, and that's how they value it. And you can't do that here in Colorado. So the county's looking at other properties that are comparable, that are in the area, and that's where I would manipulate data and find properties that sold lower. Anyway, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I just find it fascinating that multifamily is based off of the sales comparison approach. We don't know what the assessment rate is going to be yet for 2024. I know that's coming up. But all you need to know is that's the crazy equation. But previously, before this year, for the 2022 value, it was a little bit simpler. We didn't have that take out the 15,000. And that was how it was for all the years. Was you just took your value, right? Say you got a $750,000 home. You multiplied it by your assessment rate, which was 6.95% the previous year, right? That gives you your assessed value of $52,000, and then you multiply it by your mill levy of 83 divided by 1,000. That's going to give you about $4,300 in taxes. It's super weird, and guys, it took me like a year to wrap my head around this. So that's kind of what this looks like. Another point that needs to be made. Yeah, there you go. Zoom in on that. Grab that. Yeah.
I'm gonna get you on there.
As long as you get the dog coming out of the Santa's present right here. Another point I want to hit on, this is later on the slide, but I'll just cover it now. In the state of Colorado, taxes are paid in arrears.
Right.
Okay. So the 2023 value came out this year. That means the taxes based off of the 2023 value will be paid in 2024, and so on and so forth. Okay, mill levy. This is important. This is important because I don't think enough people are educated on this. The mill levy can vary within a county. It's not set for a county. And it's crazy all over. I'll give you an example. In 2021, I just I pulled some mill levies. On average, Denver was around 76 mills. El Paso County was around 87. Pitkin County up in Aspen was at 43. Summit County, right up near Breck, 71. It can vary. I've seen the mill levy as low as like in the 40s up into the 300s. And I'm going to show you an example of why this matters and how much it affects your property taxes. So check this out. Let's look at a mill levy. Okay, here's a property in Denver County. It's about $950,000 in value. So just remember $950,000. Mill levy, let's just call it 80. Okay, almost $1 million property, mill levy at 80. Property taxes, $5,300. Million, 80, 5,300. Next up, here's another one. $430,000 property. So let's just call it half. Mill levy, 187. Taxes, $5,600. So even more than that. $1 million property. Why? Why is the mill levy so high? Metro districts. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all familiar with metro districts? Very controversial topic.
Love that. So much.
We'll talk about metro districts. Again, there's two sides to it. We'll share both sides. But if you're looking at, maybe you're helping a buyer, or you're in a new build community, there's a high chance there's the metro district attached to that, and I would look that up and just educate them on how much those taxes.
One in particular in this town
Yeah.
that I stay clear of.
What is it here?
I don't even know if I legally can say this, but I stay clear of Banning Lewis Ranch.
I mean, for multiple reasons, that just adds to it, I guess. Like, so,
Yeah.
I mean, my thing with them, it's like, they're all cookie cutter, and like you see into 4 other people's yards
The
with
Metro
yours.
District,
So it's just like,
Do you know how high it is?
Bullshit. Huh?
Yeah, it's probably like near 100 or something. They're typically, I see them.
Is there, yeah.
They're somewhere
And
between
and
70 to
it
100.
can go up anytime.
It's crazy. And we'll talk about metro districts in general. Oh, no, we're talking about right now. So what is a metro district? Right? So here's the two sides of the coin, right? It's a special district created to provide specific services to a defined area, such as water, sewer, drainage, parks, rec facilities, among others. Okay, how they're set up and why do they exist? They exist so that developers can finance the infrastructure to build in a new area that doesn't have infrastructure yet, right? So they're new developments, and how they work is the district will issue these bonds to pay for the construction of the infrastructure, right? So now we've got sewage and water, all this stuff so that these people can live here. Now the caveat to this, right, is those bonds are later on paid back over typically 25, 30, something years. It just varies by the people that then buy those properties and live in those properties. And that's why their taxes are so high. So this metro district is added to the mill levy, which is then a payment that's paid for, on average, I've seen 25, 30 years, to now pay back to these bonds that were issued to allow the developer to build there in the first place.
And that's, in my opinion, that's all fine and dandy, and I can explain all that. But the problem is you can't get a hold of anybody to tell you anything.
Sure.
Especially like how much they're gonna go up, when can they go
Sure.
up? I haven't got a hold of anyone, have you?
No, and I agree with you, it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating from the property owner side, right? And so it's kind of like that two sides of like, well, I mean, okay.
Well, it's kind of like an HOA, but there's like no board, and you don't get any information, and you have no input, you have no power, you have nothing.
And you can Google it. There's some
It's like
cases. I think there's a couple cases going on here in Colorado.
Yeah.
Where like basically like the homeowners took out over the board and like kicked all the developers off it, and they're refusing to pay, and it's like becoming a whole thing.
Yeah, it's
It's a very controversial
Refusing to pay what?
they're refusing to, they don't want to pay back for these metro districts, saying, screw you developed here and made all your money. And I mean, right, again, there's two sides to the story. But that's what's going on.
But it's on the taxes, so they kind of have to pay it.
That's exactly
Well, you don't
correct.
have to pay.
You don't have to do anything, but
You
there might be
do.
repercussions.
If you don't pay it, you're going to be.
You have to pay.
Yeah, you get a lien on your
Just
property.
You have now.
Yeah.
You just.
Yeah.
Someone will pay for
Some
it.
will pay
You
for
just
it.
take it.
That all I can say is now you know about this, you're educated on it. Know this so that like if you ever represent that buyer that wants to buy that property and they don't come back on you and say, hey Craig, why didn't you tell me about this? Again, it's just more education.
With the metro districts, obviously they're financing the infrastructure that they took out to create the suburb. Is it safe to say, I mean, do those fall off, decrease once that bill is paid, or it's like, hey, we're getting this already, let's keep that horse moving? Like, would they ever fall off?
It's a subjective answer.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
It's a
think about
subjective
13
answer.
phone calls.
Yeah.
And you'll get
Yeah.
nowhere.
In theory, right? In theory, it's a 30-year bond, and once that's paid back, it's done, right? But I've heard some stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're relatively new as an idea, where 30 years ago they weren't financing development in this particular fashion.
I don't know the answer to that.
They're not really new. In Denver, it happens all the time. Here is fairly new for people to wrap their brain around.
Yeah,
So it's really, for me as a realtor, it's up to my
Sure.
customer.
sure.
This is what it is. It is similar to an HOA.
Yep,
But I cannot guarantee you anything.
yep. They happen to people on the commercial side too, where they just don't even realize they're in one of those metro districts. And like I remember this one client, there was zero appeal opportunity on the value, but we just had to get so creative and aggressive. They had a very high mill levy. And at the end of the day, they bought that property, and their job is to buy properties that cash flow. And they didn't catch that in their due diligence of how high the taxes would be, and it was just killing them.
Yes,
And
and
that
as a realtor, that's why I stay clear, because it can bite them in the ass
Yep,
2 years, 6 years, 8 years down the road.
Sure.
I don't know.
sure.
But nothing ever stays the same, right?
Yep. The problem is the mill levy. The only way you can change the mill, you can't appeal your mill levy. The only way you can change that is in voting, right? When certain
And I don't
topics
know
come
what
up.
happens. I have a question. I don't know if you know, but what happens to those areas, which I understand
Yeah,
they have a mill levy for all those reasons, and you do benefit. It's
Yeah.
just, how much is the benefit worth to you
yeah.
to have that rec center and all that? I wonder what happens, later down the road when everything needs maintenance.
Deferred
Because you're
maintenance.
literally paying for streetlights and everything, and codes change and everything. I don't know what happens 10 years down
It's
the
a
road.
good question. Is that something where like you're paying into an HOA and it's their responsibility, or I don't know?
Yeah, you don't know.
I don't know the
'Cause
answer.
I don't know either. I'm just like, let's find another mess.
Yeah.
That's what mine.
All right, call
That's
up your
what I
real
like
estate
to
agent. Good conversations here. Thank you for sharing. All right, we hammered this pretty hard. We're almost done. We hit on property taxes are paid in arrears. Property taxes in the state of Colorado can either be paid in one full payment by April 30th or in 2 equal payments. Okay, and those dates are half on the last day of February and half by June 15th. Okay. Okay, I won't dig too deep into this, but it's just good to know. There is some real property tax relief. If you work with any of the following, such as senior citizens, qualifying disabled veterans, surviving spouses of Golden Star veterans, members of the National Guard and Reserves, who are called in the active military service, may be eligible for some property tax relief. Okay, so if you know anyone that fits into maybe any of those categories, it might not hurt having a conversation with them. Again, I don't know the ins and outs of the rules and all that, but honestly, you can go to that website or you can just Google property tax relief Colorado, and you're going to get that link. That's how you got there.
I never heard of property tax work-off program. Have
Yeah,
you?
actually, no. No. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things that isn't advertised that people don't know about. Yeah. Okay. let's talk a little bit about appealing your property value and what that looks like. I know you all have had some experience with that. So I'm just gonna break this down real quick. There's 3 levels to the appeal process, okay? The first one is where you submit the appeal to the local assessor. You can typically either do this online or you can mail it in, right? A lot of counties have the capability where you can do it online, upload your appeal package or whatever you want to attach and do it, explain why you want to do it, okay? If you get your decision back and you don't like the answer to that, you can now escalate this to the next level, has various names, the Board of Equalization, CBOE, a hearing. Basically, it's a hearing. It's a formal hearing. You're gonna have a time scheduled, whether you can go in person or on Zoom. I think it depends on the county. And there's gonna be a mediator in that room who's gonna you're just gonna basically share your side of the story. They're gonna share theirs. You're gonna try to, see if there's even any room for negotiation, if that even is an option. And then the mediator's gonna hear everything and make a decision on what they wanna do. You're gonna receive a response back in the mail at some point, okay?
At some point.
At some point. It's like all messed up. I know people that are still waiting for responses back. It's crazy. I would encourage you, if you believe you have an appeal case and you were denied at the first level, I would highly encourage you to escalate your appeal to hearing. I've had opportunities where, honestly, I just truly believe the county is so busy with all the appeals. We just call it a rubber stamp. They just rubber stamp all of our appeals. And they don't even talk to us until we escalate to a later level, right? Maybe, boom, I got a hearing coming up. You know what, I missed something here. Maybe I'll call up Craig and throw him a bone, right? That stuff happens. So I would encourage you to not be discouraged if you're denied at the first level. I would push it to the next level. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, might have had appeal cases that just were missed and they didn't keep pushing and the county just got rid of them, okay? Again, I don't know this. I don't want to assume anything, but just my thoughts. Okay. Next up, if you want to go, you got denied after the hearing, you got your response back. They're still like, no, kick rocks. Then we escalate to a third level. You've got 3 options when you escalate to the third level. Without a doubt, 99.9% of the time, my company, we would always escalate to the option called the BAA, which stands for the Colorado Board of Assessment Appeals. Okay. Back when we were doing it was like $102. I think it's like somewhere around $100 for residential property. You can do that. It shows the county that you were incredibly serious. When we were handling these massive commercial properties, the county wouldn't even talk to us till we went to the BAA. But what that means is now there's going to be this time period where you can talk to the county and try to figure something out, or you're going to go to a formal hearing where you're going to hire a legal team. It's going to be a whole big thing. Now, you don't want to do that. When I spent 4 years doing this, we did that, I think, once. We would always negotiate with the county. It's a lot of work for both sides, so the county usually is going to give something. But to be honest with you, on the residential front, for I'd say a majority of the clients, unless it's like a really unique case, you're probably not going to even escalate to that BAA unless there's a lot of tax savings on the line. And by a lot, I'd probably say at least $10,000 or more. Because you're probably going to spend $10,000 at least in legal fees and all that to even go to hearing. Okay, cool. So that's that. Timelines vary from county to county. We skip over that because they keep changing. You just got to wait to hear back from the county on your decisions, and hopefully you get something back after the hearing. We'll just finish up here and just kind of give you a quick example of kind of doing a walkthrough. Again, I just want to show you an example. Like Denver County. They provide comps. Some counties don't, but you can't see these. You don't know these. And again, this goes back to you all as the real estate professionals. Like having access to that MLS, providing that is a huge value to all the people you work with. Okay, it's a huge value. Even honestly, the assessor, right? They don't have photos and everything on every single
that's
property.
just like Zillow.
Yeah, totally. It's a mess. So again, I just want to hammer home. These are the appeal packages that I would put together. I actually appealed my in-laws' house, and we were grateful to get a nice reduction on this. But you don't need to be this fancy. You just need to say, this is the value, this is what I want it at, and then share your reason why. And if I were you, to summarize it, poke holes in the comps that the county provides, right? Share interesting evidence, right? They're not going to know that the inside of your home is destroyed. If you didn't pull a permit, don't tell them that you redid the home.
I did, and I'm not going to.
Same with me. I redid when we found out we were having twins, I was like, oh shit. These twins are coming in 6-7 months, and we didn't have time to pull a permit, nor did we want to. We just-
I had
We
a
just went to
question
town.
for you on that. She and I were talking about it. Do they like for my son's house? I mean, do they kind of go sky high because somebody did look to see how many permits he pulled, even though they're not done, they're not full, they're not signed off on, the work is not complete. You know, but I'm like, how high did his shit go up so much?
It's a good question. Technically, it shouldn't. Technically, they should be looking.
They don't really.
They should be
have
looking
to
at
go
comps.
look at all the permits.
They should be looking at sales comps. Yeah. Or if the property sold within that data value.
See, there really are no comps because
Okay.
it's so old. It's so old. It's like nasty wood siding, etc. All the houses around it are, of course, beautiful stucco, perfect.
See, and that's a detail that the county wouldn't know, that I would argue, and I'd send in photos. There's this famous story, I forget what county it was in Colorado, where, same kind of thing, right? The house was a POS, and they like the homeowner, like look at my crappy home that, and anyway, they cut out a piece of the shag carpet, because I think it was
That's what I plan on
and they
doing.
mailed the piece of the shag carpet
That
to the
is
assessor.
nasty. I could have done that.
And the assessor gave him a reduction. They're like, all right, here you go, right? So I would say get creative, but at the same time follow the rules. Find comps that support your value, right? I mean, you can get creative with how you pull your comps, right? By filtering in the distance, the number of the bedrooms, and the area, right? And find comps that support your value and poke holes in the county.
All right.
Okay, go for it. You got nothing to
I'm
lose.
going
Well,
to.
you got, assuming it's
I mean,
not.
I like it because
Yes,
it's
but-
a learning experience for me.
Oh yeah,
But I'm also, it's personal because it's my son.
sure, totally,
Yeah.
totally. Yep. Yep.
And he can't afford it.
Yep, I think you gotta do that retroactive appeal. Anyway, yeah, so this is my appeal package. We don't need to get into this. One thing I will share is this. This was a fascinating one. This is one of those frustrating ones. I've had other agents ask me about this. Here's an example. Boom. Hey, I bought this property. For $1 million in July of 2022, which is 1 month after the date of value, and the county's got it valued at whatever, 1.3 million. Literally bought it less than where it's assessed at. We've seen this happen. This happened to my in-laws.